Dr. Kastrati, please tell us how you first learned about the Fullbright Visiting Scholar Program and why you decided that it was something that you wanted to do.
So after finishing my PhD, enrolling in a Fulbright program seemed like the next natural step. I initially had heard about it from a former colleague at Central Bank. He was chief economist at that time. But we also have a few eminent figures in my country, like, former advisor to the Prime Minister, former Minister of Economy, and so on. Why Fulbright and not some other scholarship? Obviously, because Fulbright, it's quite a prestigious scholarship, and as such is a competitive one, and only like few very best people get to get it. So after having certain institutional, professional, and academic work experience and background to myself, I finally felt confident and applied for this scholarship.
How did you decide on the research that you would propose in your application?
Well, I was juggling between these two ideas, whether I should start a new research proposal from scratch, or maybe use my PhD dissertation and build upon it. So I decided to go with the second, since I already had some work done, and there was this favorite part on my PhD thesis that I wanted to further develop and curate it.
And how did you decide that you would like to do research at Duke University?
Well, my decision to come to the Duke University is closely related to a former contact, Professor Connell Fullenkamp, whom I met at a work training seminar in Joint Vienna Institute in Vienna, in Austria. There I learned that he's a professor in a US university, and most importantly, that he has a strong financial background, which is something that I needed for my research. And this is something that I would, this would be my advice to other future Fulbrighters to search for an established contact within a US university, because my impression was that, people here would rather prefer somebody that they already know rather than, a new applicant that they've never heard about. Later on, learning that Duke University is top 10 in US and the best in the South, that was definitely a bonus, and I was certainly quite glad about it.
Can you share the steps that were involved in the actual application process for you?
Sure. From the moment when I started to prepare my research proposal until I finally arrived in Duke, it took me a little less than 1 year. So I would suggest future Fulbright applicants, if they are planning to start a Fulbright program next year, to start preparing right away. So I started preparing my research proposal around June, and that's when I sent it together with a CV to Professor Fullenkamp. Around October, I got my final answer, positive answer and acceptance from Professor Connell and Duke University. In November, I had submitted my online application to Fulbright Committee in US Embassy back in Kosovo. Soon after, they invited me for an interview, which is a very important step in this whole process. A week later, I got a first response that they have chosen me to be, a finalist, like shortlisted, but this was not the final response, since in the meantime, they need to send all your application and documentation back at the Fulbright board here in DC. They do the background check and so on. So sometime in April, I finally got my final approval. In June, I signed the Fullbright Visiting Scholar grant document. They send you a DS form document at the embassy from US, which is very important document to apply for visa and to cross the border when you first arrive here. As soon as I got my US visa, I immediately started to search for an apartment here, and I found one while I was still back in Kosovo, and at the beginning of September, I arrived and started my Fulbright scholarship program. But yeah, another advice would be to, once the student arrives here, to plan some time at the beginning and at the ending of the Fulbright grant period, because you will need some time for all the documentation, logistics, and so on. Because since we are in US, and as people say, this is the country that likes paperwork. So, you know, if for example, if your program lasts 6 months, you don't exactly have 6 effective months for your research.
What documents were required in the application?
Lots of documents, actually. A few important points to mention here is that the the deadline for the online application is very strict. So a word of caution here, you need to prepare everything well in advance. For example, secure the invitation letter from the hosting university, very important. Get the at least three recommendation letters or reference letters in time, and make sure that your professors send those before the deadline, because the deadline is the same for you and for the recommendation letters. Provide as much as you can for your publications, your achievements, and so on. As I mentioned, the DS form is a very important document to have, especially when you come here, because it is more important than your US visa, because they do a check on you, and it tells them that you are actually basically legally in US.
What has your participation in the Fullbright Visiting Scholar meant to you?
Well, it has been quite a valuable experience in many dimensions. First of all, of course, I have directly benefited from my regular meetings with my professor, my supervisor, Connell, where I got inspired with so many ideas of how to tackle the theoretical and empirical challenges of my research. Additionally, Duke University have so many resources which I would encourage future students to utilize. For example, they can audit classes for free. Of course, as a matter of courtesy, you initially tell your professor, and you need to agree with respective professors if they will allow you to audit certain classes of your interest. You can attend so many seminars of other professors and other scholars, presentations. You will have access to many publications and high impact factor journals, quality publications for free with your Duke email, of course. They have this facility called International House, where they provide an initial orientation to a Fulbright scholar as soon as they arrive here. This is very important because they are quite helpful in so many activities when you want to register at the Duke Visa service offices. They drive you to apply for a social security a number if you don't already have one. For example, they have a book club. They have also this program called Language Partner Program. I am also part of it, where you can register and tell them which languages can you teach and which languages would you like to learn. And based on that, they match you with somebody. So thanks to that, now I have also started learning Korean from scratch. We also have built a small Fulbright community here with other scholars, where we occasionally meet for a drink, now obviously only via Zoom, and we play some games. Also, it is a very good opportunity to use to network with other scholars, but also with other professors, and learn from them, since, here everybody is so smart. It's Duke University after all. And for example, based on a meeting discussion I had with another professor, discussing about few concepts, he told me that I should start my own online blog, and that was quite encouraging, and I finally started doing that. And yeah, of course, I had the chance to meet so many nice people like Miss Nancy, Miss Melissa, Giovanni Zanalda, and Duke University Center for International Global Studies, who have been most welcome and helpful to me.
Thank you, Dr. Kastrati. I hope this has been useful to you today. Of note is that the grant program covers all finances for the scholar, including international transportation, a living stipend, and insurance. In addition, they process the visa required to enable a scholar to come to the United States. As noted in my handout, the host unit at Duke must agree to provide the visiting scholar with access to basic campus facilities, including internet access, without any cost to the scholar. The Fullbright Visiting Scholar Program provides Duke a key resource to support internationalization on campus. Administrators, faculty, and students at every level of American education can benefit from the presence of the Fullbright Visiting Scholars. We can take any questions now.
Yeah, I would welcome any questions or any comments from faculty who've had scholars. If I'm not mistaken, Gavin, if you're on the call, you've got a Fulbright Visiting Scholar currently, right, Dr. Hampus-Holmer?
Yes,
I don't know,
2
Gavin.
years. Yes, I mean, obviously he's gone back to Sweden. There is no chance on earth that he could stay here. It wouldn't be safe, and he would probably, you know, really suffer. He'd be sitting here in isolation, away from his pregnant wife. So yes, he's gone home, but what an amazing, amazing, amazing program. So he's got 2 years fully funded, and he has just honestly thrown himself in, taking classes, you know, publishing papers with us. He's now actually also, you know, essentially putting Duke down as one of his affiliate positions. He published a lovely paper in the BMJ yesterday that has, you know, the Center for Policy Impacting Global Health as a affiliate. So when we speak to him daily, he's essentially just a member of our team now, and it's been wonderful. It's been a win-win. The fact that he's fully funded for 2 years, and he's doing work on non-communicable disease prevention in low, middle, and high-income settings, and he's very linked in with the Swedish ministry. And so the work that he's doing is highly policy linked and policy relevant.
Thanks, Kevin.
Can I just quickly ask, in
questions?
terms of the pandemic and Fulbright scholars, I mean, can we presumably they're not allowed to come for some time now, or what's the situation? Is the program on hold?
The program is currently on hold. I just got a notification this week that they've made decisions, but they're not allowing any visiting scholars to travel until the pandemic subsides somewhat.
And what about remotely? Because he is remaining a scholar with us, and he's just, you know, he's back in Sweden, but he's going to just carry on, you know, remotely.
I think that's fine. Actually, I would think that the remote time shouldn't count against his total grant.
Yeah.
But I'm the intake person at Duke. I do the final paperwork before they come to campus.
Looks like Jim Zhang has his hand up as well. Jim, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you for the information. My question is sort of going to the other direction. If for a Duke faculty wanted to, you know, spend sabbatical time or whatever leave using this opportunity in a foreign country, what is is that possible, or what is the mechanism?
Well, it would be a different program. There are actually, as I said in my handout, dozens of programs and grants available with the name Fulbright on them. It gets a little bit confusing. This particular program, the Fulbright Visiting Scholars for international visitors coming to the United States, but there are programs like that. And I would just say go to the Department of State and go under Fulbright programs, and then you can probably do a search specific to what you're looking for. But
Thank you.
I know they exist. It's just not this program.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, if not, I really want to thank Nancy and Dr. Kastrati for joining us by Zoom this morning and telling us about this a really wonderful opportunity, as so well summarized by Gavin, his comments about his colleague right now. So thanks so much for joining us.